Good morning, traders. Chris Buss here with Traders Profit Compass with your morning look at markets for Tuesday, March 2nd. Okay, we had a big day yesterday. Up across all the moving averages, and yeah, it was a good day all around. So one thing I really liked was most of our pivots worked really well yesterday if you're an active trader. So hopefully you got in on some of those, halfway decent entries early in the day, and then throughout the day there was very little, to be concerned about or to get worried about as far as shakeout candles going the other way. So from an active trading perspective, it was a rather easy day, all things considered. Now let's take a look at SPY. Before I start, it's about 10 minutes to 7 as I start the video. And in futures market, things are relatively flat. SPY futures down about 0.25%. About the same for NASDAQ and Q. And then small caps are down about 0.5%. So all within reason, considering yesterday's big move. So on SPY, stock charts has some bad data, so I'll just have to kind of walk you through it because their candles for the last half hour of the trading day were wrong, and you'll see that more clearly on the next chart. But SPY was able to recapture the 8 and 20 day moving averages and is up here around 389 to start the morning. And so I think for SPY on the daily time frame, 385 remains the pivot to use. Now if it can break, if price can break above say 392.50 and start carving out a new high, you'd be able to move up your stops to that level and then take it from there. But for right now, price did what it had to do, held that 385, recaptured the 8 and 20 day. So now with price above those key moving averages, things are looking a lot better than they did just a couple days ago, where we were testing the 50 day moving average. Here's that bad candle I was talking about. So today, if you're actively trading, I think you can use 389 as a go, no go level. If price were to drop down below and then recover it back, I think you can get long there. And I see the next level of overhead resistance right here at 392, 392.25. And I've got this little shaded red layer right here to represent that resistance band, if you will. And you can see back here, rejected. And so that's the next big overhead challenge for SPY. And here's the 30-minute chart. Bad print here. Just use 389 if you're actively trading. If it dips below in the morning, then recovers, I think you can buy it. And then, like I said, look for 392. Qs. Nice day yesterday, 3% day with a lot of the FATMAAN names waking up, specifically Apple. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here, SPY was able to recapture the fast-moving 8-day, and it has the 20 EMA above at 324.65 would be your next objective as price recovers. So I would continue to use 321 here on your daily as your bull bear pivot level. I think as long as we're above 321, things are fine. What we really want to see is a continued push higher to get above the 20-day moving average, and then to take out this 328.50 level, and then that should open the door to a try to recapture this uptrend channel line. 2-hour chart, we've got price right below this 324 level. I think if you get a move above 324, you can buy it and look for 326, then 328. And same thing here on the 30-minute chart. Notice I've got the gap marked in here. Those are the levels. The pivot worked really well yesterday at 319. You could have either bought 318 here. If you looked on the 5-minute chart, if you're an active trader and you were watching it, you could see in that first half hour of trading between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, price had come back 4 or 5 times at least to test that 318 level, and the bears were never able to take it below that. And then as time went along after 10 o'clock, then price was able to push above 319. And so if you didn't take the shot at 318, you had a chance at 319 to take it. And then that was, like I said, an easy trade after that. It gave you, basically gave you $5, 319 to 324, where it finally settled at the end of the day. So that would have been a nice cash flow trade for anybody actively trading and watching the levels as we've discussed. IWM, as we had talked about, was the outperformer, up 3.55%. And you can see here that price has recaptured both the 8 and 20 day, and then has crept into the rising channel here. And so on the daily chart, I think the next level is 227.50. If price can clear that, then I think we'll be set up for a push towards the middle of the channel, up towards 237.50 in that area for a new high. Take out these levels here at 230. So I think, if you had gotten long at any point in here, I think once price takes out 227.50, you can move everything up, move your stops up, move your strikes up, stay long, and look for new highs in IWM. Here's the opening gap, and here's the price action on the 2-hour. You can see that once price broke above, it really did not come and look back or give you any scary candles to worry you or shake you out of the trade. Here it is on the 30-minute chart, the gap. And so today, I think if you got a check back to 225, I think you can be a buyer there. Otherwise, I think it's kind of in no man's land in between support and resistance. I'd wait for a move either above 227.50 here for an initial buy, or if it back tests 225, I think you can be a buyer there with a tight stop. As we go along today and in the days ahead, watch your PPO momentum. These high-level bear crosses, if you go back in time, it usually indicates the beginning of a down cycle. So watch this here as it flattens out and begins to curl down. Does it just make a dip and then go back up, or does it truly, in fact, roll over and come down? RSI remains strong, well above 50. So IWM has been strong. It's been an outperformer. So I would certainly be looking to find long entries versus trying to get too cute with a short. You could have made money, a few places along the way, but with IWM being so strong, I think if you wanted an easier trade or to trade with the trend, I think you want to be looking for places to try to get long. And, you know, if you get stopped out, you get stopped out. But I think the odds favor IWM coming back to take out these old highs at 230 and then carve out fresh highs going forward. Facebook had a nice day, up about 3%. We had talked about yesterday 260 being the pivot. That worked great. They were never able to break it. And so if you got long against 260, you got a $6 move higher up to this prior resistance level where it was rejected. So at this 266.50 level, we've had a number of rejections here, multiple candles here, and then multiple candles here. So really for the next sequence for Facebook, it's got to take out 226.50. And if it does that, then you could look for 268, 269, or 268.50, 268. And then if it were to take that level out up to 272.50. Apple had a really nice day. We had talked about 123 as being a bull bear pivot. Again, once it gapped up, it back tested this 123 a couple times on the 5-minute chart. That gave, you know, ample opportunity. If you wanted to get long, you could get long. And so after that, you got a good push the rest of the day, putting on, really finishing up towards 128. That was a nice $5 trade. And the way Apple's been trading lately, I mean, that's been a great move. One of the best moves we've seen in quite a while in Apple, even going back before earnings. $5 is a big move in Apple. Now, what I did was I dropped in the fibs off of this swing high down to the low. So we're right at the 50% retracement area here at 127.84. Your 618 retracement is right here at 130 spot 11. So if this were going to reverse, I would be looking for a reversal between 128 and 130. But if price were to, you know, pop 128 today, I think you can be long up to 130. And then if 130 gets taken out, then you're back on the upward trajectory of the stock with a little gap here to fill, and then 134 being a pretty big level that price is going to have to navigate, because you've got this big resistance zone above here between 134 and 137.50. So let's see if Apple can have some follow through. If it does, that'll bode really well for the other FATMAAN names and the Qs in general, which have been soggy. So watch Apple as a, at the very least, a sentiment indicator. And you've got some pretty good levels here to trade against if you want to get involved on an active basis. Tesla had a good day, up 6%. We had talked about recapturing the 700 line. I'm not sure exactly where it opened. Where did it open? It says it opened at 690. So that may have been a hard place to get long, but certainly on the recapture of 700, that would have been an objective level to get long, and then you got almost $20 out of it. So today, you've got this big downtrend resistance line that may cause a problem for price here in the early going. But if it were to pop 720 and get above this downtrend line, then I think you've got a path to 735 and then potentially all the way up to 770 where this gap is, if it can take out this downtrend resistance and then this lateral resistance here at 735. on the downside, I certainly wouldn't want to see 700 fail. If it did, then it's going to come back and test this opening gap from yesterday. So I think 700 is a solid bull bear pivot. But early in the morning here, if you were to pop this downtrend line at 720, I would get long. Microsoft, we talked about 235 being the active pivot. It popped above, back tested for a couple bars, and then went north, giving you, it wasn't a spectacular trade, but certainly a positive trade at up $2. Here at 237 and change, price is really in no man's land. So what I'd want you to do is one of two things. Just wait, let price show its hand. If it comes up here to 238.40 at the bottom of the gap, you'll have an objective level to buy if it breaks above, and look for that $3 gap fill up to 241.21. Or if it stalls and you see FATMAAN and the Qs being really weak, you could set up a tactical short against the bottom of the gap and see if you get a back test move to 235. But longer term, I think as long as 235 holds, the bulls are in good shape here. But they've got to hold that level. Amazon free 50 club, 3,100, back tested several times, gave you a chance to get long against a well-documented level of support, and then you got the push up to 31.48, essentially giving you the free 50, $50 increments between levels. Now here this morning, same exact idea, 31.50 becomes your active pivot. A break above, look for 3,200. A rejection or a break above and back below 3,150. You got to be thinking 3,100. That's been the modus operandi on these $50 levels. So if you break above this morning, you can be long, look for $50 move up to 3,200. But below, I'd be looking for a move back towards 3,100. Google, yesterday we talked about 2040 being the active pivot. It held that level, made a push up to 2075, which was or is the midpoint of this consolidation range. So today, anything north of 2075 gets price back in the top half of this box, which is bullish, and then you can look for a move towards 2100, and then of course a breakout above 2100, and this thing is back on track. If it backfills a little bit here, I wouldn't want it to break below 2050, the bottom side of this box, but it could come all the way back to 2040, honestly, and still be okay. But at the top of this gap, you can see here the levels, this 2000 level where price had come into the gap but was not able to proceed and make a total gap fill. So we've got a partial fill here going on, and now we'll just have to wait and see how price resolves back within this trading range. Netflix. Up 2%, not a big day, all things considered. But with price here in the middle of this range at 550, I think you want to see a break above 554. You can see here support, 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 resistance, 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 bunch of candles here, resistance, resistance. So this 554 is a big level. If it can break above, I think that would be significant from a technical standpoint, and I think you'd see a pretty fast move, at least up to this high here at 565, but also probably up to 570, where you'll notice we've got this high volume over price resistance bar. So that's the next big technical level once 554 is taken out. Okay, I've got 4 charts I want to show you that looked kind of interesting to me. Let's start with Activision, ATVI. Got a nice uptrend channel working. We have been walking along the top, came down, actually broke the channel for a day or two to test the 50, and now has reclaimed the channel here right about 98, actually 98.72. So we're at the low side of the channel. Price has tested the 50 and then recaptured the 8 and 20 day. So price is above all the moving averages, recaptured trend, and is pretty close to the bottom of the channel. I think that's a nice value buy there. Earnings have already been reported, so there's no issues. I think you can be long here against the bottom of the channel, right around 97.50, and then look for a move back to the top of the channel, at least the midpoint, around 102.50, but also with a little luck towards the top of the channel here at 110. So, this is a pretty tight setup, after recapturing the channel and the moving averages. I like this setup here for a long. Best Buy has been grinding in this $120, $122 wide consolidation zone. Here we tested the top 3 times, came down to the bottom, support, back up to the top, rejected, now back down to the bottom at 100, just below the 200 EMA. I mean, you're supposed to buy support and sell resistance, right? I mean, that's the definition of range trading. And here, price has showed everyone that there are willing buyers at 100, and there's lots of willing sellers at 122.50. I think you can get, this is a tight long setup, because you'll know exactly if you're wrong if price loses 100 and starts moving down, into this zone. So, I mean, that is about as tight a long setup as you're going to see. And, you take your long here out in time. I wouldn't get anything, like 2 weeks out, because I don't think there's a catalyst afoot to do that. But earnings have already passed. I think you can get long, out in time, 2 or 3 months, and just see if this thing grinds back up to the top towards 120, 122.50, and then set your stop just below 100. Costco, very much the same thing, although really not a range trade. Price has come back all the way from 385 back down to 330, which you can see was an important level, and we've got a large volume over price bar right here acting as support. Now, Costco reports Thursday after the bell, so I'm not advising doing anything right now, 2 days ahead of earnings, but keep 330 in the crosshairs, because if it can hold 330 through earnings, I think it's got at least a good chance to come back up here to this resistance level at 352, and so that's $22 higher. And the flip side is, if 330 fails, then I think we're coming back here to 312, something like that, probably even lower, back down towards 300 So I think we're at a pivotal spot here on Costco. Let's see how earnings plays out on Thursday. But set yourself an alarm around 3:30, and I think then we'll have an objective place to either go long or short after earnings. Fastly, been chopping in a very wide range for almost a year, in between 75 and 115. You know, we were above. That turned out to be a fake breakout, then back down in an overshoot below, but then grind back to the top of this sideways consolidation range. You see here, this was a location where it got stopped before, then back down to the bottom. I mean, if you want exposure, you know, to software, to a higher beta name, I think this is a good as location as any to try a long against this well-defined level at 74, 75. You know, take your long out in time, set your stop just below, and if everything all of a sudden gets bullish again, this is going to grind its way back up towards 115 in my opinion. And again, the key level is just to hold this 74. And if you can take, you know, $4 or $5 a heat, if it were to come back and back test and, you know, stay down here a little while, if you can handle that, then I think you've got a really nice long entry here on Fastly at the bottom of the range and above this key level. So make note of that if you're interested in a higher beta name in the software sector. So, okay, let's do a quick recap. Big day yesterday. Averages up across the board. IWM continues to outperform. I think that'll continue to be the case with banks reopening, trades, restaurants, cruise lines, airlines, all that stuff. I think is going to grind higher. And you know, if you were looking to be an index trader or to get long one of the indexes for a longer term duration trade, I think IWM is the one. I see that continuing to go higher, and eventually here in the next week or two, if things stay positive, price grinding out a new high. So the FATMAAN names, specifically Apple and a couple of the others, are perking up. Some well-defined levels to shoot against there on Apple, and actually all of them are set up pretty well, close to pivot points that you can use if you're an active trader, or if you want to set up a swing trade for longer duration. I think you can use the same pivots that we discussed this morning. And then lastly, several range-bound trades in Best Buy and Fastly, both at the bottom of their trading ranges. I think you can be objectively long with a pretty tight stop, hoping for price to move back up to the top of the range. We've got Costco that's been weak, but with earnings right around the corner on Thursday, I think you got to hold off and let that crank through. And then lastly, Activision, which looks really bullish to me on the recapture of the upward channel and its fast-moving averages. So, all right, let's wrap it up there. If you're new to the channel, I really appreciate the time and for having you listen. If you like what you've heard and seen, why not subscribe and hit the alarm bell? You'll get notified of all my content. And then if you'd like, go over in the show notes. There are links to the blog site and a place to register for all my content, where you'll get a nice, neat email in your inbox every time I publish content. You won't miss a beat. The community continues to grow. Also, if you register for my content, you'll get an invite to our trading room, which is a great place for idea generation and camaraderie with other aspiring traders just like yourself. And one thing I'll remind you, even if you can't participate during the day, if you've got a day job or otherwise aren't available, go ahead and join the trading room. And then after hours, just scroll through, 8 hours worth of posts. It'll only take you 15 minutes. And you'll see the tickers that come up. And then you can use those tickers for further idea generation at your convenience. And so you can quickly read into the flow. And I think that's going to be beneficial. And also, a lot of guys are active after hours, posting observations. I'll get in there every once in a while and post charts that, never see the light of day, as far as letting the whole world know. So I'll post setups when I see them in real time, and then you can check those out after hours to see if it's something you want to follow up on in your own trading. So anyhow, we'd love to have you. So have a good day of trading today. Let's keep March going in the right direction. I hope you had a good day yesterday and look forward to another good day today. So this has been Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass. Talk to you next time.